Lawmakers grilling FBI Director Chris Wray over the attempted assassination of President Donald Trump at his Pennsylvania rally. Of course, that was nearly 2 weeks ago. This as questions keep growing over how the gunman was able to access that rooftop, killing rallygoer Corey Campetor as the former president barely escaped the same fate. 2 other people were injured, along with Mr. Trump. Wray also revealing that gunman searched details about the JFK assassination. Joining us now, Congressman Mike Kelly, Republican from Pennsylvania, who represents Butler County. That, of course, is where the shooting happened. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning, Hannah. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, our pleasure. Now, the House just voted to form a task force to investigate this shooting. What will this probe entail, and how confident are you, sir, in the FBI's handling of the case thus far, almost 2 weeks later?
Well, here's what I'm confident of. I'm confident that this task force is being put together, and we're going to get the answers that the American people have to hear. We have to listen. We have a responsibility to do this. They have the right to know, and we have the responsibility to find out. So the task force was passed last night, and by 416 yeses and absolutely nobody voted no on forming the task force. That is a step in the right direction. But I think at the end of the day, Corey Campetor was killed. His wife lost a husband. His daughters lost a father. 3 other people were wounded, including the former president of the United States. But more importantly, the country was wounded on that same day. We have to find out what happened, why it happened, what did we not see that we should have seen, what did we not do that we should have done. And at the end of the day, this task force is going to get to those answers. And I don't want it to be political. I want it to look at what exactly happened. Why in the world did this happen? And, you know, this is my hometown. This is where I played American Legion. Baseball as a kid growing up, it's 4 miles from my home. That whole scenario was starting on July the 5th when I understood that they were coming to Butler, Pennsylvania. My questions was that the right site? But that's not what we're talking about now. The task force is going to be given the task of finding out for the American people the answers that they need to know.
I'm told you were just feet away when President Trump was shot. I want to ask you again, does your confidence remain with the FBI?
Well, I think all our confidence is shaken right now. The American people need to have the faith and trust and confidence that what is put in place for a reason. And for what reason it didn't function that day the way we would expect it to, we have to find out why didn't it function.
Sure.
And not so much pointing fingers at people, but looking at what is it that we didn't do that day that we should have done, because it seems to me, as you look back at it, there was too many things that happened ahead of time, more than enough time to get President Trump off the stage. If President Trump leaves the stage, none of the aftermath happens.
You spoke on the House floor about Corey Campetor, of course, the hero firefighter who died shielding his family from those bullets. You introduced a resolution to honor him. Where does that bill stand now, Congressman?
Well, last night, as you know, we passed the task force. It's a resolution. Every member of the House on the floor last night voted to go ahead with this task force. And again, as I said earlier, the Campetor family lost a husband, a father. The community lost a very valued citizen and a veteran. We have a tremendous responsibility to answer to the American people what it is we need to know. And I just think somehow we've got to get away from this back and forth, party to party. We are all Americans looking for the same answers, and we need to get them. We need to restore that faith and trust and confidence that the American people have to have in our form of government.
And going back to FBI Director Chris Wray, former President Trump is calling for him to resign. He's alleging that he lied under oath when he said he saw no cognitive decline when it comes to President Biden. What are your thoughts on that, sir?
I wasn't there for that hearing. I'm not a member of that committee. I would just think that there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. This has been kind of ongoing, where we're wondering why people put in charges of different things and different committees, different agencies. Why is it they're coming up so short when it comes to the answer? Just give us the answer, and then don't explain to us what you didn't do. Explain to us why you didn't do it.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.